And here's the thing. Right now, many of us are sharing the USDA label with producers we don't trust, whose practices we reject. As someone who's one of those growers who doesn't need the USDA seal to survive, that's not a good feeling. I don't want to undermine or devalue the USDA label for all of those farmers that need it and want it. I'm trying to find a way to include farmers in every state, at every farmer's market, at every farm conference I attend, who identify as organic but don't carry the seal. And frankly, I didn't become certified organic to share the label with CAFO chicken or watery hydroponic lettuce. Nor do I enjoy sharing the label with organic Doritos, organic Gatorade, and as Joan infamously noted, the organic Twinkie.
Welcome to the Real Organic Podcast. I'm Linley, Dixon, co-director of the Real Organic Project. We're a grassroots, farmer-led movement with an add-on organic label that distinguishes crops grown in healthy soil and animals raised on pasture, without synthetic fertilizers or toxic chemicals. You just heard from Emily Oakley. She's a founding executive board member of the Real Organic Project and farms with her husband Mike at Three Springs Farm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Speaking live at our Saving Real Organic conference at Churchtown Dairy, Emily explores one of the most important questions facing our movement. Should the Real Organic Project create its own standalone organic certification? I loved this talk from Emily. She passionately shared why small farms are leaving USDA organic and what a Real Organic label could mean for the future.
Our next speaker is Emily Oakley from Three Springs Farm in Oklahoma. She was our presenter at Farmer Friday yesterday. I didn't have the privilege of getting to know Joan as much as everybody else did, and so my mantra is always, what would Emily do? She was on the NOSB, National Organic Standards Board, when I first met her. She fought very hard there, speaking truth to power. And then she was a founding Real Organic Standards, a Real Organic board member for our organization. So without ado, Emily Oakley.
Thank you, Linley. You're way too kind. But like Joan, I don't plan on holding back this afternoon. So good afternoon, everyone. After lunch, I know it's a little bit tricky at this time. But I'm going to be talking about the small farmers that are either avoiding or dropping USDA certification and what that means for organic and the Real Organic Project, because it raises questions of farmer identity, ease of certification, customer requirements, and organic as a marketing tool versus a movement. And more importantly, it brings to the fore how ROP can serve small farmers and what happens when those small farmers drop certification or never get it at all, and whether there's room for a new label for them. Like many Real Organic Project farmers, my partner and I are first-generation farmers who came to agriculture out of a deeply rooted passion for the environment and social justice. As with most small-scale growers, we didn't choose this profession because we thought we would get rich. We were drawn into farming for the opportunity to live our values, and we're lucky enough to get to do that, thanks to our community of eaters. We raise a diversity of vegetables on about 2 acres of land with the same amount in a fallow period cover crop, and sell mainly to our 300-member CSA. We're a 2-person operation, and farming is our full-time job. The mantra actively pursued by the USDA in the 70s under then Secretary of Agriculture Earl Butz, get big or get out, has a counter-narrative, and that's stay small and stay in. While we are under no illusion that all farming can be small-scale, we strongly believe that the country needs more small-scale farms serving their local and regional communities. The push in farming and many business models is continuous growth. Bigger farms, bigger businesses, more. If you're not growing, you're not thriving. But it doesn't have to be that way. We've tried to resist that notion by being as small as possible while still making a living, still saving for retirement. Oops. We don't achieve this through outrageous prices, but through homing in on profitable crop mixes, looking for efficiency, and achieving a retail price by selling directly to our customer or eater. How incredible would it be if our nation was filled with thousands more small farms? Rather than existing farms getting bigger over time to meet the increasing demand for organic food, what if more people got into organic farming and stayed small? Farming is a viable career, and in the 22 years that we've been at it, we've seen more young people exploring and embracing community-based agriculture for their livelihoods. The Real Organic Project helps tell the stories of small-scale farms across the country who are feeding their communities. These farm successes push back hard against the "we need big farms to feed the world" mantra that is so often tossed around. This is evidenced by the USDA's 22 census, which showed that the number of direct-to-consumer or local farms more than doubled to 60,000 over the previous 5 years. That's approximately 5,600 people for every local farm. It doesn't take a suspension of disbelief to see the incredible potential here. Part of enticing and keeping new organic farmers is a movement that they can feel connected to and a part of. The back to the land ethics of the 60s and 70s, coupled with the drive to farm in a way that protected the environment, gave birth to the modern organic movement. And those values still resonate with new farmers. The success of organics eventually led to the federal legislation in 1990 that created the USDA organic standards. Unfortunately, over time, we're seeing that some new farmers are opting out of organic certification. Why is that? Equally troubling, small farms who were once USDA certified are dropping their certification. And why is that? The reasons are many: cost, paperwork burdens, difficulty of finding a certifier. But I believe the heart of the matter lies in skepticism about the integrity of the USDA seal, based largely on lobbying pressure from businesses with an extensive market share and an outsized influence on organic standards. Farmers advocated for the USDA seal, expecting that the government would uphold and enhance the meaning of the word organic, not undermine it. This is where the Real Organic Project offers an organization and a label that farmers can join to feel a part of something that is more than a marketing tool, that conveys why they farm the way they do. It provides them with an add-on label that distinguishes their farms as committed to soil health and animal welfare. It connects them with other growers who feel the same. That's why ROP took off running from the beginning, garnering broad support across the country. We want to encourage more small farmers to get into farming, to keep farming, to farm organically, to stay small while farming, and feel as though they are part of a meaningful movement. When we started farming on our own in 2004, seeking organic certification was an essential part of our agricultural identity. It felt like a connection to the founding farmers of the organic movement who helped build the principles and practices behind that system. That's no longer the case with many beginning farmers or even established direct-to-consumer growers who never certify or drop certification. Since its founding in 2017, the Real Organic Project has been an add-on label in which farmers must first be USDA certified organic before they can join ROP. There are a number of reasons for creating it as an add-on, including the desire to continue to support the label that farmers created and the ease of using USDA standards as a baseline. ROP certification then layers on increasing commitments from the farmers to grow according to additional standards. By serving as an add-on label, ROP relies on the farm's USDA certification process to verify that those standards are being met. The ROP team then carries out on-farm inspections every 5 years to enforce the add-on standards. Over the past several years, ROP has seen a trend. While the organization gains over 100 new farms each year, roughly a similar number are dropping ROP certification because they are dropping USDA certification too. That is an incredibly meaningful fact. Small farms are quitting the USDA in significant numbers each year. Wouldn't it be amazing if ROP could be a home for the small farms slipping through the big organic net? Why aren't some local farmers staying certified? What can we do to address this? How do we keep them from leaving? I believe the answer lies in how one answers the following question. Is organic a label, a marketing scheme, an industry, or a movement? How you answer that depends on your organic identity politics. Why does a farmer choose to be organic? Are they certified because they're looking for a higher price point or trying to tap into consumer demand? How much do they believe in the ethics behind organic? Farmers obviously need the USDA seal to sell wholesale and to retail stores, but direct-to-consumer growers don't have to have certification to interface with their end users, and that is why many can afford to opt out of certification in the first place or to drop it if they decide it has become too onerous or no longer reflective of their values. And yet, they still want to communicate to their community that they're organic. While the USDA has mostly got the budget and infrastructure to run a nationwide certification program, they don't have the arm's length distance from corporate lobbying or political pressure and influence. And even when they do have the budget, they are not immune to the vagaries of different administrations and their varying agendas. For example, this year, the National Organic Program staff was cut by close to 1/3, even at a time when enforcement and fraud prevention are so needed. Although people have myriad opinions about that, one thing is certain, and that is that politics do impact USDA organic certification. There are dedicated consumer and farmer stakeholders advocating tirelessly at the NOP level for transparency, enforcement, accountability, and integrity. But no organization has a budget that even remotely rivals that of big businesses and their lobbyists and trade organizations. Although consumer and farmer groups have grassroots representation on their side, that can only go so far in combating corporate pressure, and it's exhausting in the process. Keeping strong organic standards shouldn't be that hard. It's not idealistic to believe that the USDA organics should be above corporate and political pressure. It's actually pragmatic to believe that. If we accept lobbying as a normal part of doing business, we will always be playing catch up with the standards. So, can the Real Organic Project offer more than an add-on label? Could there be room in the movement for another standalone organic seal, one that uses the USDA standards as its ground floor and then augments farmers' commitments towards practices for things like biological diversity, habitat creation, animal welfare, farm worker protections, and that does not require USDA certification first? It's those additional values that inspired so many small farms to join ROP in the first place. How do we keep them from leaving the ROP label, if not the USDA label? Imagine how impactful this movement could be if we brought together all the uncertified farmers who meet the Real Organic standards. How do we include small farms that have left the USDA or never joined it and still honor the word organic? How can we make the biggest impact for them? And what's needed to create a standalone label, one with the rigor of verification and enforcement? Last year, the NOP at the USDA had an annual budget of $24 million. For the Real Organic Project, it would mean a budget and the organizational infrastructure to conduct annual inspections for their growers. It would mean monitoring the USDA standards to make sure ROP growers continue to follow them. It would mean collaborating with the many organic advocates and stakeholders, many of whom are here, who work to uphold the USDA to its promises in order to build unity around a new label. If ROP were a standalone label, the number of certified farms could grow to 10,000 quickly. And to keep certification free for small farms, which it should be, because the burden of certification should never fall on the organic farmer, ROP would need a secured annual budget of $10 million annually. While this may seem like a lot, it's actually quite small compared to the impact that this could have on uniting the organic movement. Would a new standalone label use the word organic? I'd say it's not a mistake to create a standalone label with the word organic, as long as the ROP standards use the NOP as their baseline. Technically, while not USDA certified, those farms would be following the same standards and getting inspected and verified, so using the word organic would be harder to argue against. Moreover, ROP ups the game by adding its own higher standards. If the USDA standards were never intended as a ceiling, a new label is a chance to augment organic practices for continuous improvement without having to fight so hard to maintain them. To give you an example of what I'm talking about, during my term on the National Organic Standards Board, we voted on a recommendation to prevent growers from converting native ecosystems immediately into organic production. Why would a farmer want to do that? If they don't care about the environment and they're only looking for a quick way to get immediate certification. Those native ecosystems haven't had prohibited substances applied to them like herbicides and pesticides, so they can be taken out of wildlands and immediately put into organic agricultural production without having to go through the 3-year transition period. You would think a recommendation to prevent this would be a no-brainer, something all organic stakeholders and the USDA could get behind, but not so. Not only did it take an inordinate amount of effort and compromise to get a recommendation passed, but the USDA has made it clear that they have no intention of putting that recommendation through rulemaking. It's gathering the proverbial dust on a shelf, and it's insults like this that feed skepticism of the USDA seal. Whether a new standalone label were to use the word organic isn't the heart of the question, as I see it. The question is, how do we reach and represent the thousands of small farmers growing organically who don't currently have a label? The Real Organic Project could be that home. The opportunity to reach growers and their customers, people who are already primed to farm and eat to organic standards according to the Real Organic Project standards, is already there. They're just looking for a voice and for a movement that captures their reason for farming. Including more eligible farmers isn't just about altruism. Many farmers make organic claims to their consumers without being certified. I believe in certification as a way of ensuring that that's true for both the consumer and other farmers. I don't want the word organic to lose its meaning. Creating a certification that welcomes these growers under the word organic actually protects the label and the word. I think of the producers who compete against other growers in farmers markets who use the word organic without the verification. I think of the customer who wants to believe it. I think of the grower who is in a region of the country without good USDA certification options, who has to say things like, we grow using organic methods, but who doesn't feel like they can be a part of the movement. I think of the USDA paperwork that only gets more complicated in their efforts to prevent large-scale fraud. But in the case of small growers, that just adds another burden without meaningfully affecting fraud. Farmers will always seek a means of explaining themselves to their customers, using a variety of terms like natural, sustainable, and the latest iteration, regenerative. But each of those words is also being used by large-scale agricultural interests that have little in common with them. These terms are subject to interpretation and misuse. Organic integrity is as much about trust as it is about enforcement. And here's the thing. Right now, many of us are sharing the USDA label with producers we don't trust, whose practices we reject. As someone who's one of those growers who doesn't need the USDA seal to survive, that's not a good feeling. I don't want to undermine or devalue the USDA label for all of those farmers that need it and want it. I'm trying to find a way to include farmers in every state, at every farmers market, at every farm conference I attend, who identify as organic but don't carry the seal. And frankly, I didn't become certified organic to share the label with CAFO chicken or watery hydroponic lettuce. Nor do I enjoy sharing the label with organic Doritos, organic Gatorade, and as Joan infamously noted, the organic Twinkie. Just think of the tremendous freedom of belonging to a label in which we don't have to have those fights, the time we could instead dedicate to celebrating the awesome stories and successes, helping farmers relate their innovations. The focus becomes what we stand for, not what we're fighting against. I believe that I see what is both a problem and an opportunity, because 25% of the Real Organic Project's farm applicants each year are non-NOP certified organic farmers. And this in spite of the fact that the communications from ROP clearly state that it's an add-on to USDA certification. But they apply anyway. I think that message is really clear. There is a problem if we miss out on these growers, their voices and their passion. They may not need a label to survive and thrive, but many of them want one and simply don't see a viable option. The organic label shouldn't just be for bigger farms or wholesaling. A label is more than a label. It should be a link straight from the farmer directly to their eaters that communicates their farm's purpose. Organic certification that's also a movement creates a sense of identity, belonging, and community. It gives farmers a place to turn for links to other like-minded growers, a network for mentoring, and farmer-to-farmer skill sharing. Movements sustain us through hard times and unite us to a common cause. If we're talking about antitrust, we're talking about making certification reachable for all farmers, not by watering down standards, but by actually strengthening them, by giving growers access to certification. So we have an opportunity to include those farmers who make valiant efforts to grow organically, who farm with integrity and for integrity, and who are often the face of their local farming communities, and who deserve a label that understands and rewards that. So there's a whole community of uncertified organic farmers out there who don't have a home. Can the Real Organic Project be that philosophical home, that movement to which they belong? I believe it can, with the support of the eaters who care, because the Real Organic Project has in abundance something lacking at the USDA: integrity and trust. I believe the time for a Real Organic Project standalone label is now.
Thank you for listening to the Real Organic Podcast. If you have a spare minute today, the single most effective way you can help us grow this movement and others to find this podcast is by leaving us a rating and a review wherever you listen to our podcast. You can find a video version of this interview on our website or on our YouTube channel, and you can join us every Sunday for a new episode featuring voices from the organic movement. And if you haven't already, please sign up for our weekly newsletter at realorganicproject.org/email. See you next time.